Hey guys, Mix here, and in today's video we are back working on my 1974 Corvette. So over the last couple videos we've been working on this engine right here, and we took it out, we just resealed it, cleaned it up, and repainted it, and it looks absolutely amazing. Before, this engine was all crusty and disgusting and greasy, and now it looks like a brand new crate engine. But this engine is not complete yet. We have a bunch of new parts that just came into the mail. Some very exciting parts. We'll get more into that a little bit later on in the video, but we do have to finish this thing up, and what I want to try and accomplish in today's video is getting it back into the car and fired up. So some of the gaskets that we got in the kit didn't actually fit this engine, so I did have to order some specifically. Now this engine usually has a 4-piece oil pan gasket, but I got a 1-piece instead, and I think that'll be much nicer. And we're also going to be changing the fluid on the transmission as well. I just want to try and finish up this engine so it's just all ready to go, and then we'll work on the car. So one of the first things I want to jump into is actually taking off the snout for the radiator, and that is because I didn't realize when putting this in, but this thing didn't have like a thermostat. After kind of like doing some research, this apparently is a thermostat. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know exactly how it works, so definitely pretty interesting. But I went ahead and did away with that. I relocated the sensor because before we had like pipe fittings and the sensor is way out to here and it wouldn't really read that good. But now I relocated it to this side where it actually threads into, and then just plugged this side, and now the sensor is, you know, nice, and it should be able to read much nicer. And then right here we have just like a normal type thermostat that we are going to be throwing in. So let's go ahead and start with that, and then we'll go ahead and just work our way through the engine, put in new valve covers with gaskets, and then the oil pan. Then we should be pretty much wrapped up from there. Alright guys, so this engine is all finished up. We got fresh valve covers on here now. I still got to clean them up, get the fingerprints off of them, but I'll do that when it's in the car because we'll be manhandling this thing to get it into there anyway. But this engine is complete and ready to go into the car. For the most part, obviously there is like the clutch and the flywheel, which we still have to put on, and I got that right in here. And I did actually get the flywheel resurfaced. I'll show you guys right now. So here is the flywheel with a nice clean machine surface. It looks so much better, and this should definitely make the life of the new clutch last a lot longer, and it should be a lot smoother, and it's definitely well worth it. We actually stand corrected, we still have one more piece to replace, and that is the oil filter. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick, and then this thing should be good to go. Right now, as you guys can see, I have the engine hoist out, and I want to get this thing off of the engine stand and then down onto a dolly where I can install the flywheel and then the new clutch. And then once we're done with that, I'll see what time it is, and we're either going to put it into the car today or we're going to do it tomorrow because I did get a late start to today. So with that being said, let's free up this engine stand and get ready to install the super nice new clutch. So the new flywheel is on, torqued down, and Loctited. Have the old pilot bearing out, and our new one is in our new clutch box. I got a McLeod Racing Super Street clutch kit. Now this one is rated up to 550 horsepower, so this will handle the engine just fine, and we will have room to grow, even though I'm pretty sure I'm just going to stick with this power level. But this thing is literally a piece of art. It looks so nice. And over there you can see our discs. I'm super excited to get this thing installed, and it should actually have a lighter clutch pedal than the one before. The one before was ridiculously heavy, so I'm super excited to see how this thing feels. Let's go ahead and get it thrown into the engine. Alrighty, so I just got the new clutch installed. Everything matched up and worked really, really well. And then right now, I didn't bother recording it because there's really no good angle to record. But I just sat in the engine bay and got the new throwout bearing installed and also all greased up. But I made sure to grease up the face of it, the splines a little bit, the tip, the ball that goes right behind the fork, then obviously the input shaft itself. So I'm pretty sure that we are just about ready to raise this engine up and lower it into here. If we could just at least get the engine mounts in before sunset, then that would be good. So then tomorrow we could just do all the plumbing and everything like that, lines, wires, and hopefully have a successful first start. So what I need to do is pull off the wheel so we could get the engine hoist underneath, and then I also just got to slide out the engine mounts because, well, we're not going to get very far with those in there. And then we'll slowly lower this thing in. Actually, on second thought, I'm going to do the transmission fluid change now, but I got manual transmission lube from Redline Products, I believe it is. I've heard really good things about it, so we're going to put it to the test. So do that, and then we'll do everything that I was just saying before and get this engine inside. So guys, I got the fluid draining now. The fluid itself doesn't look too bad, but on the plug, it has the magnet, and there is a lot of metal and just sludge in there. Wow, that is bad. So hopefully with this transmission, wow, that is really bad. This transmission could be on its way out with this, with how bad this looks, but hopefully with this new fluid in there, it could somewhat give it a little bit longer of a life, because I heard that it's actually really good at just keeping them healthy and shifting nicely. Hey guys, so I just finished topping off the transmission with the new fluid. I have the starter on now, and I have this plate here that I want to try and get on. It's not, obviously, that part's right there, but I want to get this main section to be able to cover everything, because I was told by one of you guys, a fan, that water is detrimental to throwout bearings, and that could definitely be a reason why ours failed, because it doesn't have a dust cover like this. So I'm gonna see what I can do. It's not exactly the right one. Well, it's the right one for a stock GM, but since this one is an aftermarket transmission, it doesn't have any bolts around the bottom of the transmission, and those bolts are for the engine to transmission bolts, and it's not like you could just put it between there because it doesn't have bolts holes high enough for that. So once we get the engine in there, I'm going to try and slide it in between and then just drill holes wherever it will line up into the bell housing, and then we'll kind of work from there. But I think right now we're ready to lift up this engine and start getting it mated with the transmission. So here goes nothing. Alrighty guys, so we are actually back here 4 days later from the last clip, and because whatever you guys last saw was the start of a nightmare. I lifted up the engine, brought it down into the car, started working, trying to get it in there. Camera memory card went full. I lost the entire time lapse, but it didn't really matter. I was just going back and forth fighting this thing because it did not want to go all the way in. I would get it into the transmission, but there was about an inch or so for the motor mounts to drop down and actually be like aligned with the car. And I fought that for like 3 days, like literally like putting maximum effort into pushing this thing, and there was some carnage along the way. The starter solenoid snapped, the oil pressure sensor snapped, and the engine bay did get a little bit scratched up, but as you guys can see, the engine is in and made it up flushly with the transmission all the way around. I already have all of the bell housing bolts in. The engine mount bolts are slid in as well on both sides and tightened down. And I was finally this morning able to get it. And definitely I think thanks to this load leveler, which gave me like a little bit of the extra reach I needed, along with all the angles and everything like that. But there was a lot that I did off camera, and I didn't bother recording it just because I wanted to get it done. I took out both sides of the headers and the driver's side motor mount to try and get the engine, you know, to be able to just float in much nicer than how it was before, getting caught up and everything. But along with that, once I got the engine in, I had to put back in the motor mount, obviously, and then I had to get back in the driver's side header, which I already did already, but I had to remove the entire clutch linkage, which is that bar going right across over there. I had to remove it from the clutch fork and then the pedal rod itself, get it out of the way in order to get these headers back up here, but I already have them bolted down underneath right there. And then I still need to get in the passenger side, which I'm not worried about because now we have a ton of room down here, but I'm gonna wait to do that because I still need to put in the new starter solenoid, which should be here today, and we did already get a new oil pressure sensor, which came in yesterday. So what I want to do after we fought this thing forever is begin plumbing up everything and getting this thing ready for the first start. And man, this engine looks so good in here. I definitely still need to clean it up a little bit because I got like fingerprints and everything all over it from manhandling it. Now let's finally get into working on it and just start cranking everything out, and I want to try and get this thing fired up today, and hopefully everything goes to plan. So with that being said, let's get started. Alrighty guys, so we are back here the next morning, and we have just been cranking out work. Today is definitely going to be the first fire up day, and this engine looks amazing in here. But basically all I have left is the alternator bracket for the bottom of it, just the engine grounds, and then we just have to you know, hook up all of the belts and everything like that, fill up the radiator, give it oil, and then we should be good for the first start. Guys, so this thing I believe is pretty much completely ready to just add fluids and start it, but I just spent literally 2 hours trying to find the oil pressure sender wire. Literally could not find it anywhere, but I finally did, thank God, and I got it all hooked up. I ended up putting it in with the harness when I cleaned up all the wiring. I had to take off all the looms, everything I did to find it, but I'm just happy that I did. So now let's go ahead, add some oil, we'll add some coolant, and then attempt the first start. Alrighty guys, so I just came back from literal war with this engine. I honestly thought that we were going to be stuck in the water for today because the fitting on the water pump actually snapped from the inside. So when I started filling this up, it started leaking, and it was also leaking from the hose itself, and I couldn't get the hose to seal at first, and then I got the seal. I just double clamped it. I'm still kind of finicky on that. We'll see how it is once the system's under pressure. But then I saw that it was also leaking from there, which this is the fitting that was on there before, just this little dinky little plastic one. You can see where it snapped off, and I was like, I am literally screwed. So I know that you're able to plug those and also plug the port on the intake. But I didn't really want to, and plus I really couldn't because, well, there were no threads because it was just the inside of that plastic sitting in there. So what I did was first I tried cutting it with this little plastic knife, and that was not working. But then I really got to thinking, and I used this heat gun. I heated it up until it started smoking, and then I took a flathead and it came right out because it started to literally melt. and it came out, and then I was able to go to the store, get a nice copper fitting, which threaded perfect. I also put some Teflon tape on there, and now we are back in business. As you guys can see, the coolant system is all topped off, and then I also did the oil as well, so I just need to check it real quick on the dipstick. I did put in some of this oil treatment for some zinc. That stuff is really good for these engines, but once I check the oil, I believe we are good to go for the first start. It's right in between full and low, so I might add a little bit more and then we'll definitely be good. Alrighty, here we go. Gonna turn on the battery first. Hopefully it's not dead. I mean, this battery is actually like one of the best batteries I've ever had. This thing always cranks to life. Now we'll really see. I'm so freaking nervous, oh my god. So what I'm gonna do is crank it without pedaling it or anything like that, because I want to get the oil pressure up. So once we see oil pressure on the gauge, we'll go ahead, pedal it a little bit, give her some gas, and she should hopefully fire up. So here goes nothing. All right, so I am going to turn the key with the clutch down, which feels amazing, but we'll know right away if it's fixed or not. So, oh boy, here we go. All right, it cranks. Let's just wait for oil pressure, hopefully. And it's not screeching, which is a sign of, well, it works. No oil pressure yet. I'm going to get out and check for leaks. All right, we look good. Let's try it again. Come on, oil pressure, build. I will check again now that we have oil pressure. All right, everything looks good. I don't see anything. All right, here we go. We're gonna give her some throttle and hopefully she comes to life. Oh. All right, just sounded like it backfired out the intake or something like that. So I'm gonna take this off and just see if see that, because maybe the distributor is off a little bit. Oh yeah, definitely did. All right, we do have fuel pressure. Oh, no, no, no. Definitely, distributor's definitely off. So what I'm gonna do is take off the rotor cap and take off the #1 spark plug and get this distributor aligned, make sure that everything is firing where it should be, and then we'll try once again. Alrighty, so I just got everything all patched up front. It was way off, so should hopefully be, if I did everything correctly, firing on the correct cylinders this time. And I have a feeling that if it does run, it's going to be very loud because it sounds like it has an exhaust leak somewhere, just based on the backfiring I was hearing at both the intake and exhaust. But here we go. Definitely sounded better. We're alive! Woo! Woo! I'm gonna cut it off and check for leaks, but woo, it runs. Let's see. Nothing that wasn't already there. I don't see anything leaking. Alright, so I'm gonna try and run it before when I tried to fire it again. I think the time was a little bit too advanced, so I kind of backed it down a little bit, and that made it much more happier. So now I'm gonna try and run it for a little bit longer, get it to idle, and then hopefully once that thermostat opens, it'll slurp down all of that, and then we can start bleeding the system. Of course. Oh, lovely. Alright guys, so I just timed this thing at 12 degrees before top dead center, and it is sounding so much nicer now. It is so much smoother, and I can actually rev it now. I'll show you now. Woo! We definitely do have an exhaust leak right there, because the gasket, when I took it apart, broke. But you can see we were pretty much warmed up. Oil pressure at that temperature is about normal, and when we rev it, it goes back up. And best of all, we can push in the clutch and it doesn't screech anymore, which is awesome. So I've just been letting this thing idle, you know, just keep looking for leaks, and everything looks pretty good. But this exhaust leak's really, really loud, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it off. But this thing seems to be running strong. The ignition is dialed in, the idle, everything like that. So I think we are just about ready to get this thing buttoned up and ready for the test drive on the road. But we're gonna leave that for next video because there's still a bunch of stuff that we need to clean up and everything like that. So with that being said, I'm gonna be ending off this video here. Definitely a lot of up and downs in this video. I didn't record a lot of it just because I just wanted to get it done, but I'm very happy with the outcome. The engine sounds great. It is revving up great. Definitely got to get that exhaust leak fixed though, because it is very loud, but we'll deal with that next video. But anyway, guys, with that being said, I'm going to be ending off this video here. Follow my social medias. They'll be on the outro of this video. Instagram and Snapchat I use the most. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends about the channel.